The first mock draft for the 2023 season. I'm flying Ryan Gilchrist along with
Joel Verlin,
the
Tampa Motor
Tampa
Mouth.
Motormouth over there. And it's going to be Joel, myself, and my buddy Zach all drafting. It's a 16-team mock draft. Zach's going to be picking out of position number 6. I'm going to be picking out of position number 8 right in the middle, and Joel is going to be picking from spot number 16 at the turn, so he's going to go back to back. Fortunately, a lot of auto picks, so this will not be as rough for Joel to wait. I know when we do the real 16 team, but that 16 spot, it takes a while before you have any action. So let's hit the start.
And winding road.
So we're going to hit start, and there we go. This is both a test for when we actually have to do this for real at the end of next month, and just because it's been a while since we've done a mock draft at all. So as you can see on the screen, Jefferson, the number 1 overall pick, that's been happening a lot more frequently. Eckler 2, Kelsey 3, McCaffrey 4, Jamar Chase at 5. A little bit of surprises there.
McCaffrey no longer number 1.
McCaffrey at 4 is surprising. I've seen him in like full PPRs, which this is a full PPR style of league. So, of course, it is going to kind of bump up some of the receivers. The running backs were a little soft last year. But, yeah, we're seeing that more and more. Jefferson 1, McCaffrey at 4 is still absurd. As we wait on Zach to make his first pick. He's got another 40 seconds to do so, which surprised it's not already in. Joel, how many mocks have you done so far? Is this the first one?
First one.
Okay. Yeah, I've had a Dynasty, a bunch of rookie drafts. I've had a best ball draft that just wrapped up this morning. So and I've done a few mocks just to get used to it, but not the first one I've done. Tyreek Hill goes, and then Stephon Diggs. I think that makes my choice very easy. I'll take Cooper Kupp. I still think he's pretty good for that roster. As it winds way to the end of the first round, the Joel, so far, Kelsey and Mahomes, the only non-running backs and wide receivers to go in the first round. Bijan Robinson, 1.9, the rookie who has not played a down of football, the number 3 running back off the board, seems a little aggressive to me, but that's the way things have been going. For whatever reason, the mocks have him going very early. Joel on with back-to-back picks as he looks at his screen. The first one is Derrick Henry. I'll get Joel's thoughts once he makes his second pick. Good to know. Good to know. 30-second delay, which is actually good because if I start talking about picks I'm thinking of or Joel's thinking of when we do this for real, at least I'm not going to be. Yeah, this is Zach who's drafting is kind of responding. Having a 30-second delay means if I'm sitting there going, oh, I might get Tony Pollard, which is going to be my pick here. Oh, I'm going to get him. The person at 9 or 10 who is drafting with us won't be able to see that right away. So that's kind of a nice thing. So I'll take Pollard. Henry and Amon-Ra. Joel, what are your thoughts? What was your reasoning for those two?
Oh, just wanting to do RBWR to start off because you don't want to do RB. You also don't want to do WR.
Yeah, in a 10-teamer, you can get away with that. Even a 12, but a 16, especially when you're on the turn like that, it's real tough.
The tiers vanish really fast because you have more teams. So all of a sudden, the amount of selection that you have available, but you have a 10-team league, it's like, oh, okay, no big deal. When it's a 16-team league, it just sort of feels like everyone is so much more under a microscope.
Yeah. Me at the 8 and even Zach at the 6, if I wanted to go Kupp and another wide receiver, I could have went after the running backs in the 3rd round. But Joel, after he makes the pick of Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to have 30 picks or so between that pick and his next one. So the question here is why Amon-Ra over guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, and Jalen Waddle who went after, and some of the guys still on the board?
I'm just sort of really sold, I think, on Detroit this year.
Amon-Ra finishes the wide receiver 8 last year. He's the number 8 wide receiver off the board. He is going as the number 9 wide receiver in general, so it's not out of place to pick him there. Just that interesting when you have Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, and A.J. Brown that they all have their perks why you went that way. It's just kind of the mental game of the mock draft, trying to figure out where people are thinking and why you're going for the guys you're going for. All right, so through 2 rounds, 4 quarterbacks have gone: Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Then Lamar Jackson in the 3rd round. So that's one of the things we're seeing a lot this year is quarterbacks going much earlier than they traditionally have. It used to be Allen or Mahomes or something like that would go in maybe the 2nd or the 3rd, and then you'd have a few more in the 4th, 5th. It's really become much more imperative to get those high-scoring quarterbacks early. The guys with the cheat codes like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen who can run. Pat Mahomes is just a cheat code in his own right because he's insane. It's become a priority to get those guys early. I don't know if that's a route I would ever want to take in a 16-teamer because, again, those tiers are going to dry up. You can get by with taking a guy like a Kirk Cousins or an Aaron Rodgers a lot later, and then maybe even drafting a second quarterback in a rookie like a C.J. Stroud. It's just a real tough thing to plan for if you go early with that one. I like some of these options here a little bit later. So we're going to play the game, and we're going to take Debo here. Cut, Pollard, Samuel start for me. Zach's got Hill, Olave, and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a very interesting player this year. We really don't know what the Green Bay Packers are going to look like with Jordan Love. A.J. Dillon is still there. I got to think the running backs are going to be the focal point of that offense, at least until we see what Jordan Love can do. So hopefully Aaron Jones will pay back that 3rd round value. He is going lower than he traditionally has, so it's definitely worth a shot there. But the Packers are going to be an interesting team to find out what's going on. Joel is on the clock now, adding to Derrick Henry and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Plenty of options. DeAndre Hopkins, the recent Tennessee Titan addition, is the next one up. So he's got the Henry and Hopkins stack. If you expect big things from the Titans, and they're in a fairly soft division, this could be one of those stacks that works out really well. I traditionally don't like having the quarterback or quarterback, running back, or wide receiver running back from the same team, but the last time I did win the 16-team league, Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow, both on the roster, both played a big role in it, so it can work out. And second one, he does go quarterback early with Trevor Lawrence. Any reason for Lawrence over Fields and Herbert a little bit later?
Well, just not really sold as much this year as I was last year on Justin Herbert. He really, 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 really disappointed me big time.
Herbert had a really bad year. I'm in a position. I was kind of hoping Sanders would get back to me. Did not quite get there. He went off the board a couple of picks before me. I'm not a big believer in DeAndre Swift. I don't know what's going to happen in Philadelphia, but having Miles Sanders in that offense last year was not fun.
DeAndre Swift just.
I'm torn here between an Alexander Madison and a Cam Akers. Cam Akers is going to be my pick because, well, one, I want to do something silly and take Kupp and Akers. But Akers finished the season very well, and they want to build on that. I just don't know if I believe in Alexander Madison.
Where has DeAndre Swift been going in some of your mocks?
Well, in this one, he's still on the board. He will not get out of the 4th round. If he does, he's going to go in the first couple of picks over here in the 5th. He's going several rounds before Rashad Penny, who has a very good shot. There goes Alexander Madison. That was the one I was torn between, so Zach gets that one. But he's going right there at the turn. Rashad Penny's going like the 8th or 9th round. So we're seeing some value there if you want to take a shot that Rashad Penny is going to be the starter because he's been very good in his NFL career whenever he's been healthy. He really hasn't busted, Rashad Penny, that is. So he could very well be the starter of that team. I still think the big rushing threat is going to be Jalen Hurts, and I think everybody who's watched the Eagles the last couple of years is going to understand where that comes from. But, yeah, that Philadelphia situation, we want some clarity. We'll get that before the season starts. Obviously, we are before preseason. We're before training camp. So DeAndre Swift right now, he was someone the Eagles went out and traded for. So the assumption, at least as of now for the fantasy community, is he is going to be the starter. I don't know if that's going to come to fruition, but we'll find out in the next few days and weeks. Zach back on the clock. He has got 2 running backs in Jones and Madison, 2 receivers in Hill and Olave. Again, being in the middle, you have that flexibility to go aggressive at the wide receiver or at the running back position early and then kind of reel back in the other one. He doesn't have a tight end, doesn't have a running back or a quarterback. Reminder on this league, a tight end is not a mandatory position as Mike Williams goes. This is a wide receiver tight end. I'm going to take the shot on one Alvin Kamara if it will load. It's trying, it's thinking, it's processing. Come on.
You can do it.
We out. Technology is always fun. There he goes. Alvin Kamara, again, did have a resolution to his court case. We don't know the suspension. I'm drafting him there in the 5th round with the assumption he's going to miss 2 games. Alvin Kamara on that offense is going to be worth a 5th round pick. I will take that chance. I'll sit him on my bench if I have to, and I might have gotten a top 10 caliber running back in the 5th round. At the 5th round in the 16-teamers, 6th, 7th round in a smaller league, it's worth the chance, especially now that legal situation is done. We'll hopefully get some clarification on the exact suspension as we get closer to the season, but I'll take the chance here as my running back 3, flexible option, and a very good player when he's on the field. Joel back on the clock. Zach did take Mike Williams while we're on the topic. Joel on the clock. Henry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Trevor Lawrence. Did take Javonte Williams at the 5-16 pick. He is on again at the 6-1. And then we'll ask him about the picks he makes and what he thinks about both players. I know Javonte Williams, specifically coming off of that knee injury, any concern that he is not going to be healthy enough to go to start the season? Or is it one of those, I'll take my chance with the young guy, going to be able to bounce back a little bit quicker than a lot of others?
Definitely wanting to take my chance with the young guy. You'd rather go with a young guy who's getting off an injury as opposed to an older running back who their swan song is approaching.
Yeah, I mean, the next ones that came off, A.J. Dillon, we talked about with Aaron Jones. We don't know what the Packers are going to be. David Montgomery, if he slides into that Williams role, Jamal Williams from the Lions last year could be a great pick, but we just don't know what that role is going to look like quite yet. So Javonte Williams there is a good pick. I went with Kadarius Toney. He has been talked up by Pat Mahomes possibly being one of the best wide receivers in the league. He did come over mid-season, so having a full offseason, if he can stay healthy, he could be the new Tyreek Hill for that offense. And if he's the new Tyreek Hill, the 6th round pick is an extreme value.
Can I break in with some baseball?
Yeah.
Good news, bottom 7th. There's still time to collapse and give the Orioles still the win. But right now, Rays ahead 3-0. We might finally see the slump being broken.
That would be a very good thing. The Rays have fallen completely off. So to recap my team right now, Cooper Kupp, Tony Pollard, Deebo Samuel, Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara, and Kadarius Toney. Zach is back on the clock with the 3 wide receivers of Hill, Olave, Williams. He does take Tua. He gets the stack with Tyreek Hill. If he can stay healthy, that is a great pick. Tua has been a very popular pick of mine in mock drafts when you get to the 6th, 7th, especially in the 16-teamer. And if you compare him with Hill, that could be very, very dangerous overall. Deshaun Watson, a couple picks later, and then Anthony Richardson, the rookie, who we technically don't know if is going to be the starter off the bat. I mean, it could be Gardner Minshew. I don't expect it to be, and if he is, I don't expect it to last that long. But going at the 7-2, I think that's a little bit of a risk by the computer there. Zach back on the clock. Joel, any input on what Zach has done through 6 rounds and what will be 7 rounds shortly?
I'm trying to get my screen wanting to work right here. Okay. Oh, definitely like Tyreek Hill going first. Olave is a daring pick, but hey, you never know what could go on with New Orleans. It just depends on if Carr can find himself again in his new home. Jones, of course, not a bad pick at all. Madison I really like, especially, of course, with the Dalvin Cook relocation. So Madison looks to take over the RB1 slot in Minnesota. Mike Williams, never a bad pick at all in LA. and you can't knock Davis with Gabe Davis in Buffalo. And I believe it's my pick.
Yeah, it's back to Joel. Gabe Davis, very disappointing last year. He just
remember all the hype because of just that one explosion, and then.
And if you watch his season last year, he did still have 2 explosion games. He had one where he's the wide receiver 1 of the week, where he had 3 catches, but 2 of them went for long touchdowns. So it can work out. He is the wide receiver 4 for Zach in this case. So that's a place where you can take a risk. I took Zay Flowers, a rookie for Baltimore. He's got a lot of hype coming around him right now. So I'll take the chance as the wide receiver 4 that maybe this rookie explodes. First-round rookies tend to do pretty well. So your Jordan Addison, should he be able to play, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson, and Zay Flowers all picked in the 20 to 24 range. They have potential to explode. And if you really look at the Ravens, is there anybody on that roster you're saying that's a locked and loaded wide receiver 1? Probably not. I'll take my chances with the rookie there. Joel rounds the corner with Allen Lazard and Cole Kmet. He is now filled in all of the positions. He's got at least a starting lineup other than the kicker and defense. This is another one where I'm going to take a shot on the young guy because the guy I was hoping would fall back to me did not. I take Devin Achane for the Dolphins. He has explosive speed on a team that is full of explosive speed. So when he gets the opportunity, he could just break one. Again, running back number 4, I'm not expecting him to do a lot of great things, but if he does end up being the rookie that pops, that's going to be a steal in the 8th round. We go back to Zach, who still needs a there's no mandatory tight end in this league, so he doesn't need to get a tight end. Right now, Williams and Gabe Davis would both be in the starting lineup. He does have 2 running backs, 8th round. That pool's going to dry up very quickly. I'm balanced 4 wide receivers, 4 running backs. Joel, a tight end, a quarterback, 2 running backs, and 4 wide receivers. So Joel and Zach both in the position where a little bit light at the running back position, but there's still a few names on the board that have some interesting outlooks at least. Jerick McKinnon was great at the end of last year. Elijah Mitchell behind Christian McCaffrey. We know the injury concerns with McCaffrey. Devin Singletary in Houston, they brought him in specifically. This guy could have a role there. Deonta Foreman in Chicago might be the starter. There's still a few options out there if you want to go running back, but that pool is drying up pretty quickly.
Do you take a roll of the dice of Ezekiel Elliott?
Not until I know where he's at, as Zach goes Jerick McKinnon to help that roster. Because I personally think Zeke's done. I traded Kelsey and Zeke away to get Josh Jacobs and Daniel Bellinger before the Darren Waller trade. Doesn't look as good now that Bellinger's pretty much been replaced, but I think Zeke Elliott's completely done. So even if he signs somewhere, he's not going to be a great fantasy option in my opinion. So I'm willing to just let someone else grab him, stash him, hope the best as Zach McKinnon and Singletary. So I guess he's
I thought it was amusing earlier this week that Deshaun Jackson apparently announced his retirement on Instagram, and everyone was probably like, he's still in the league.
Yeah, it's not a great look. I'm going to take Deonta Foreman here. He may be the starter for the Bears. I think Khalil Herbert is what most people assume is going to be the starter there. But Deonta Foreman was very good in a few games with the Carolina Panthers last year. He was good in relief of Derrick Henry the year before when he got hurt with the Tennessee Titans. So I'll take the chance that he ends up being a bigger factor on that team. And I think I'm pretty solid at running back. I do want to address the wide receiver position, but still have some time with that. Joel, back on the clock. Shrink this one down. Again, Joel's team over here is Henry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Trevor Lawrence, Javonte Williams, Tyler Lockett, which I like a lot, Allen Lazard, Cole, Roschon Johnson, who, again, may have a big role with the Chicago Bears, and Raheem Mostert, who's going to have a role with the Miami Dolphins, of course. Back to me. We're getting to the point where they recommend kickers and defense, so we're gonna go over
liquored up or otherwise.
Those quarterback options. I think I can wait still. If we go to the flex, get rid of some of those other ones. Not a ton here. Again, in a 16-teamer, it's going to get very shallow very quickly. So this is when you want to take your chances on someone that you're not going to get later, and it's going to be KJ Osborne for me. KJ Osborne was very good at the end of last season. I don't know if he's going to be the guy. We just heard Jordan Addison's with his 140-mile-an-hour driving episode. He has been dealing with soft tissue injury. It's possible KJ Osborne's the number 2 for that team, and that's been a valuable role. Adam Thielen's been good in the past. KJ Osborne did have his moments in the last year. So I'll take the chance on Osborne again, a wide receiver 5. If he doesn't pan out, so be it. But I think he's got that sneaky sleeper quality to him that he could work out and be a much better player down the line.
Top 8, 3-0 Rays. They're still leading.
All right.
What the?
Oh, good. Sleeper, anytime you take a kicker early goes, what the? All 3 of those went. After Zach's pick of Michael Gallup, kicker, tight end, wide receiver, kicker. 2 defenses gone. So this is the point where in a real draft, you'll see some people go after kickers and defenses often the last couple of rounds. You also see some people take them in the 5th, 6th round. That's the one thing these mock drafts can't really capture is the people who do something.
I thought Sleeper was having a delayed reaction to that crazy day. I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, where you had a total of 192 runs hit across baseball. I mean, you just had some insane scores.
Yeah. Anyway, Zach back on the clock. After picking Michael Gallup, he has 5 wide receivers, 4 running backs, and a quarterback. And he takes Jeff Wilson, the other running back for the Miami Dolphins. They will all have a role. I am the only person on this draft that does not have a quarterback, so it's probably time to look that direction. And I'm going to go – I think I'm going to go the way I want to go, even if it's not necessarily the smartest one. I'm going to go with the stack for a Cooper Kupp with Matt Stafford. In a league this deep, I'm typically going to take a second quarterback anyways. So I'll take someone with more upside on the second one. But if I have the Kupp-Stafford connection and it's as good as it was in 2021 when the Rams won the Super Bowl, I'm going to be happy with that pick. Joel on the clock for back-to-back picks. He has 5 total picks to go. Still needs a kicker and a defense, but not the time quite yet. But all in all, he has filled up the roster pretty well. 2 picks here we'll go over shortly.
I think I'll do a partial Ryan here.
Oh, you never go partial Ryan. You go full Ryan or not at all. And I don't know what that means. What does that mean, Joel? Okay, goes early on the defense. That's there. Ooh, goes early defense and kicker. I don't know why that's called a partial Ryan, but it's an interesting way to go. Now, I'll say this. If you really like where your team's at, there are worse things you can do than go after that play. I'm going to take someone here who, frankly, shouldn't be on the board. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon were very good last year at the end of the year. That was also when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was out. So don't forget about him. He should still have a pretty sizable role. Don't forget, he was a first-round draft pick by this coaching staff. So it might be his last year in Kansas City. But the draft capital and the talent does dictate he should have some kind of role. And he is my running back 6. I'm happy to have him in that position. Zach goes with Taysom Hill. Hard to argue that. He's going to have 2 games at quarterback probably and have a great season just as a result of that. Couple rounds left. This should be Zach's last pick before he has to go kicker and defense, unless he wants to jump.
Which team? I know the Jets sort of got picked to be on Hard Knocks. What team do you think you would have liked to see on Hard Knocks this year?
Honestly, I think the Jets were probably the best choice. I know there's a bunch of standards that say what you can and can't do. As Zach goes with Sam Howell, I don't blame you at all on that one. Oh man, it got thin real fast. So let's see. Anything on the defense that really is interesting? No. I gotta go either quarterback or kicker defense. I'm gonna play the ADP game a little bit, and not that it really matters in a mock draft what defense I take, but let's. I can't go with the Patriots. I just hate myself too much. Let's go with the Steelers. Very good defense traditionally. That's the team that's gonna have to win games on the defensive side of the ball, and start seeing more defenses and kickers after Joel's pick. Yeah, I don't mind picking in the 13th and 14th round the kicker and defense because in most drafts, when it's not computerized, you're going to have people that wait until those points. So if you pick the defense in the 13th and the kicker in the 14th, you might be the first one to take it in both, and no one's taking players in the 14th or 15th round. So I have to worry about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or so picks at the end of the round. And then after that, everybody should still be there. So there is something to be said about taking a kicker and a defense around earlier than most. I know we'll see some when we do this draft for real up here in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. That's too early. For my money, even this 10th round is a little early. Joel, 11 and 12. A little aggressive, but it can work out. Because, I'm going to say it point blank. Oh, actually, never mind. Maybe I might have went. Over to this. Wow, they actually have Brock Purdy projected for less points than Trey Lance. So the sleeper algorithm is saying Brock Purdy is not your starter. I disagree. So I'm going to take Brock Purdy here. Not necessarily the quarterback I would have hoped for, but it seems like every time I was waiting on somebody, they didn't make it back to me. So, anyways, breaking down my roster so far, I have to get a kicker. At quarterback, it's going to be Matt Stafford and Brock Purdy. Both of those work as a stack because at wide receiver I have Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. Both would be a stack. Kadarius Toney, Zay Flowers, and KJ. Running backs, Tony Pollard, Cam Akers, Kamara, Devin Achane, Deontay Foreman, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm very happy with that group. And then right now the Pittsburgh Steelers defense as well. Zach has wrapped up his draft with the Broncos. I'll wrap mine up with sure. Let's see. So Zach, Tua and Sam Howell at quarterback, Aaron Jones, Alexander Madison, Jerick McKinnon, Devin Singletary, Jeff Wilson Jr. at running back. Does stack Tyreek Hill with Tua at wide receiver with Chris Olave, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, and Michael Gallup. Does have Taysom Hill at tight end, so you can put that in the flex position. 12th round, that's a pretty good place to go. Jason Sanders at kicker and Broncos at defense. And then as Joel wraps it up here, Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback one with Devin Ritter as a backup at running back, Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams, Rashawn Johnson, Raheem Mostert, and Kenneth Gainwell. Kenny Gainwell right there. That could be a real sneaky pick. Wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, Allen Lazard. A little bit light on the wide receiver position, but very good quality for what he's got. Cole Kmet and Isaiah Likely at the tight end position. Ravens defense and Jake Elliott at kicker. So let's start with yours, Joel. How do you feel about your draft?
The screen thing is kind of, I have to figure out how to work this because it's not okay. Because I can't. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Most people use Sleeper on the phone, so doing it on the computer, you do get some, how do I do that and this? But anyways, here's is the one highlighted over here on the right.
I got it starting off with Derrick Henry. Definitely think he should be in for a solid year. I know Tennessee Titans are going to be stepping back a stage or two, I think, this year. But Derrick Henry still should put up enough offensive production. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm really hyped for Detroit. I think they're going to have a good year, and it's just going to carry over to everybody. I think Hopkins' new home in Tennessee just will work out. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville is on the rise. Their star is definitely ascending. I think that'll carry over. He's going to have Calvin Ridley to throw to. That will just help to open up the offense. I think Javonte Williams is worth a risk. He's young. He can get over the injury. and Denver's going to have something to prove. Hopefully, that's Drew Lock doesn't suck as much as we think he does. We'll see. Tyler Lockett, of course, for Seattle. Now, yeah, just have a question with Seattle this year as they performed so above where everybody thought that they were going to. I don't think anybody even had them in the freaking playoffs this year, but we'll have to see if Geno Smith can compete and do that again. So we'll just have to see because that was just a year I don't think anybody saw coming. Picked Allen Lazard just because I think he's going to be one of Aaron Rodgers' go-to targets, and that means something. We saw what happened, of course, with Christian Watson, Christian. It's easy for me to say Christensen Watson, of course, over in Green Bay. Maybe he can be the new Watson in New Jersey for Aaron Rodgers. Cole Kmet really had some potential last year. Chicago could prove to be dangerous. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, everyone could talk about most was, of course, Chase Claypool. But I think Kmet is a sneaky pick. Yeah, Rob John for Cincinnati. We're starting to get to the dart throws here. I think Mostert will have a role in Miami, as you said. As far as Elliott, well, you need a kicker because you need a kicker. Ritter, of course, was just because you need a backup quarterback, especially as you know, in a 16-teamer. And I think Atlanta is going to be a little bit better this year. And just hope that Kyle Pitts does well. Sneaky pick, Gainwell, just his name rang a bell, no pun intended, from last year. And same thing with Isaiah Likely. I was just struck with the potential there. So, like I said, when you get that late, it's just freaking dart throws.
Yeah, Mark Andrews went 301. If Isaiah
Literally
Likely
the
gets the
16-teamer.
opportunity, if Isaiah Likely gets the opportunity to do injury with Mark Andrews going out, that's an absolute steal. Mark Andrews is definitely the top two.
We'll just have to see how likely that's going to be. Or
yeah, for my money right now, I would say your wide receivers are probably your best point because St. Brown, Hopkins, and Lockett are all very good. Tyler Lockett was a top 15 wide receiver last year. We'll have to see how he does again with Geno Smith. Geno had one great year. But if he can repeat it, Tyler Lockett, he's getting old, but he doesn't take a lot of hits, so he should have a couple more years left. We'll see how Jackson Smith and Jigba impacts things, but I think Metcalf and Lockett are still going to be the 1 and 2 this year. So if you got a top 15 running or wide receiver or running back, really at 601, that's a steal. My concern for your team would be running back because I think Derrick Henry's got another big year in him. He is an absolute freak of nature. Tennessee eventually is going to fall off entirely. They're going to have to move on from Tannehill and Henry, but not quite yet. The addition of Hopkins means they don't feel like they're done yet. But after that, Javonte Williams, just with that knee injury, we'll have to see what comes out of it. We don't know what Roschon Johnson's role is going to be. I think that Chicago backfield is going to be kind of a hodgepodge, as well as Raheem Mostert with Miami. And Gainwell should be the running back 3 or 4 with that team. But DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny with very volatile injury histories, he could vault up to the starting role in 2 weeks because of injuries alone. So it's an interesting team. I like the pick of Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if I'd do it over Herbert or Fields, but there is an upside case to be said about the Jaguars moving up. All right, let's go to mine. I really like my wide receivers and running back options here. Kupp and Samuel, very, very secure at the top couple of slots. And then you take a couple shots with guys like Kadarius Toney and Zay Flowers that could pop off. If Kadarius Toney gets in right with Pat Mahomes, this Kansas City Chiefs do not have a true wide receiver number 1. If Kadarius Toney can be that, that's an absolute steal in the middle of the 6th round. KJ Osborne late, I like it. Again, he's a wide receiver 5, not someone I'm going to lean on. But if he does pop off, Jordan Addison does not pan out, that could be a great thing as well. Running back, Tony Pollard was an absolute monster last year when he got the opportunity. I expect him to be just as good this year, even though they did want to slow down the offense a little bit, but that is more rushing volume. Cam Akers, it's a little bit of a risk because at one point last year he wasn't going to be on the Rams, and then at the end of last year he was on absolute fire, playing I think the last 3 or 5 games at a 1,500-yard and over double-digit touchdown pace. I'm taking the chance he's going to pan out. Alvin Kamara in the 5th. if Kamara's Kamara, that's a steal, even if you miss 2 to 4 games. If he misses 6, that's a little bit aggressive, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Then the last 3, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Devonta Foreman, and Devin Achane. If one of those guys pops off, they're an absolute steal. If all 3 of them pop off, that's just insane. Something you can trade and get better later. I'm going to say my weakness is at quarterback. Matt Stafford, if healthy, he is very good, and especially with that connection with Cooper Kupp, he could be a good steal in the 11th round. The one thing I'll say when we do this draft for real, you're not going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams pick 2 quarterbacks before the last person picks 1, most likely. So I should have some better options if I try and wait that long again. And then Brock Purdy is a backup, and then kicker defense, not too important. And then, Joel, I'll go over Zach's team. Kind of want your feedback on the whole thing. So, again, Tua at the starting quarterback position with Sam Howell as the backup, should be the starter for Washington. Then running backs, Aaron Jones, Alexander Mattison, Jerick McKinnon, Devin Singletary, Jeff Wilson with the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Michael Gallup at wide receiver, Taysom Hill at tight end. Then the kicker and defense really doesn't matter. Strengths, weaknesses, anything on that one?
The picks that I tend to like the most are obviously Hill. Yeah. I definitely really, really like Madison. I'm sold on Madison this year, big time. You tend to look into the depth. I think I definitely have to agree with what you said about Taysom Hill. Could at least get 2 starts, maybe more. Just you have to believe that New Orleans, if anything happens to Carr, they're going to look to Hill because they just know what's going to go on with famous Jameis and all the turnovers, apple cherry, and every other kind of variety. So they're going, yeah, can we put in Hill? We don't want Winston in there. So those and also I think Wilson is definitely a sneaky pick. Not too sure, not completely sold on Olave, but we'll just have to see what happens. And of course, James, definitely one of the same thing, just or rather Jones, sorry, not James. Yeah, you just have to wonder what's going to go on with those Green Bay running backs, because remember, of course, Dillon and Jones and the ups and downs from last year in fantasy. So a little bit of a risk, especially with Jordan Love behind center now as opposed to Aaron Rodgers. So we'll just have to see what the future and the crystal ball brings us.
Yeah, I'd say the strength of that team is definitely the wide receiver. If you can go Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, Mike Williams starting every single week. Mike Williams is a little bit boom bust, but with the injuries last year to himself and to Justin Herbert, you got to think a little bit of a bounce back is coming. He actually is not as injury prone as people think. He missed 7 games in the last 4 years, given 4 of them were last year. So it kind of shifts that viewpoint a little bit. But if he's on the field, he's going to be a good player. Herbert should be better coming back off that rib injury. So that wide receiver core is very, very good at the top. Gabe Davis and Michael Gallup, I think at least one of those is going to be solid. That's probably going to be more of a bye week fill-in situation than someone you're going to put in your flex too often than not. But that's the position of wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 on most teams. Tua, if healthy, is an absolute steal in the 6th round. The concern is injuries, and you're not going to know that until, well, he takes his first few hits. And if he doesn't get up, then you might have a problem there. But picking up someone like Sam Howell, who's got a pretty good offense around them if they can put it all together, not a bad backup plan. And then at the running back, the risk here is we haven't seen Alexander Mattison in the role as the starter full time. He's been inconsistent, but he's been trending better when he's got the chance to fill in for Dalvin Cook. So the hope is that he is going to continue that climb. He's had plenty of time in the system, so he's going to get opportunities. There's no one else behind him on the depth chart, so he's going to have chances. How much he takes advantage of it, I don't know. I know when I had the option, I went with Cam Akers just because I've actually seen Cam Akers do it a little bit more often than Alexander Mattison, and I thought that was the less risky play. Both have risk, but that was just the way we went. Aaron Jones, again, it's going to come down to Jordan Love. If Jordan Love is hot garbage and the Packers are facing 8 in the box. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and the Packers in general probably not going to have a good year. But if Jordan Love is competent, I'm not saying he's got to be Pat Mahomes, but if he's Derek Carr, if he is Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, Geno Smith from last year, that's going to be enough to give him room. And Aaron Jones has been very good when he's given those opportunities, if he's allowed to be good. He's probably going to be a little more boom bust than in some past years because Rodgers was really good about the dump off passes, keeping that offense going. Jordan Love is going to have some off games. You can count on that. And then McKinnon, Singletary, and Wilson, I think it's going to be a little bit of a which one hits in which week. Now, I do have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I got him pretty late. If him or Pacheco go down, I think Jerick McKinnon automatically becomes possibly the best running back on that roster for fantasy reasons because that offense just likes to explode. Jeff Wilson will have a role. Devin Singletary, people are down on Dameon Pierce for a reason. They brought in this head coaching staff brought in Devin Singletary for a reason. So not necessarily sold on the depth at running back, but there is a case that we made for those three guys that they're going to be better. But if Jones and Madison hit, this is a very solid lineup from top to bottom.
And breaking news, Rays finally snapped the slump and win 3-0.
All right. Now, last question before we end this one. Of the teams that were not drafted by yourself, myself, or Zach, is there any of them that really stand out as either doing something really good, really bad, something really weird? I see one right now I'm going to want to bring up. Anything out there that just kind of stands out as either a really good roster or something that maybe you wouldn't have done in a draft like this?
I tend to like Team 5. I know auto draft and algorithm and AI and all that, but I tend to like Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Lamar Jackson, and Kyle Pitts and Rachaad White.
Yeah, Rachaad White. We'll talk more about some of these guys as we get into our full breakdown, but Rachaad White is going to be the starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a team that's probably going to have to shift more towards the running game this year because Brady's not there. Trask and Mayfield have not looked as good as hoped. And again, we said in the last one, maybe that's the receivers because all the videos I've seen, they're not throwing to Godwin, they're not throwing to Edmonds. The best player on the field they're throwing to is Cade Otton. So hopefully that's the case for the Bucs, but Rachaad White could be a very sneaky pick in the 5th round. The concern with that team is going to be running back depth. Rachaad White, Jamal Williams, Pierre Strong, end of list. That's all they've got. But Chase Smith, Brandon Cooks has a good upside. Lamar Jackson, if he stays healthy. Kyle Pitts, Chig Okonkwo. It's got a lot of hope on this roster, the running or the wide receiver position that could feed into the regular season and hopefully make those running back shortcomings a little worse. The team I was going to point out as doing something a little bit strange is going to be team number 3. I have actually 2 I'm going to call out, but team number 3, taking Travis Kelce is a cheat code when you have to have a tight end, but this league does not require it. So it's a little aggressive to take him at number 3. You're not getting the positional advantage. But then going running back, Etienne, Gibbs, Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook still not on a roster, Dalvin Cook, that is. Etienne, who they've said they want to cut back the roll on and kind of spread things out. Jahmyr Gibbs, who, yes, he was taken in the 1st round. Detroit has a history of picking first-round running backs that bust. I want everybody to know that first and foremost. But they also gave big money to David Montgomery, someone who's a little more established. And the theory is if they're going to do kind of the same thing they did last year with Swift and Jamal Williams, Gibbs is going to be the Swift role, and Montgomery is going to be the Jamal Williams role. Jamal Williams had 17 rushing touchdowns, so that's a little bit of a concern for me. And then Gibson has a lot of upside, but the receivers here, Christian Kirk, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mingo, and Josh Downs, that's not strong. And in a PPR, I think you want to have at least one receiver you go, I can bank on this guy every week having a good opportunity. You know, Zach's got Tyreek Hill and Olave. I've got Kupp and Samuel. You've got St. Brown, Hopkins, and Lockett, all that are very consistent players for the most part. Christian Kirk is not that. And then you go to Juju with the knee injury. That's kind of a weird way to do it. And then team 15, I just want to point out, just because I want to point out how quickly the depth can die off. Wide receiver, start with Wilson, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore. That's great. J.K. Dobbins is your number one running back. with his injury history is concerning. A.J. Dillon was a complete bust last year. Again, same argument for Aaron Jones. We don't know what that team's going to look like because of the Jordan Love addition, or addition to the starting lineup at least. And then a backup for Cleveland, Ford, who, unless Nick Chubb gets hurt, probably not going to see the field. So in a team or a league with this much depth, you really don't want to start with 3 blues or 3 greens that denote the positions on here. So I do think the 3 of us did a much better job than some of these others having balance and having a little more logic put into play. But all that being said, that's kind of normal when you draft with computers. So, first mock draft of the year, that's in the books now. We'll do a few more of these. I know we've got a lot we have to cover before the season starts. We're going to do divisional breakdowns. We'll do conference breakdowns. We'll probably group some stuff together. We still have to do both of our draft lottery picks for the draft orders for our 10 and the 16 team that we just mock draft. And then we've got I've got a rough estimate for draft week. I know the 10-team league that is still going to be on Yahoo is going to be on August 25th. That's going to be a draft, 8 p.m. Going to draft that one live. This 16-teamer, the League of Winning, used to be on Yahoo, now on Sleeper. We actually used the settings for that league to do this draft. That's going to be on Saturday, August 26th at 8 p.m. And then the week leading up, we'll probably do a couple mock drafts, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end breakdowns the best we can. And, we'll be back with the regular season before you know it. It's been a very long offseason for football. I know a lot of stuff has gone on behind the scenes. I know, Joel, I'm sure you've got a lot of stuff that's happened to you in the last 4 or 5 months, 6 months since the end of the football season. But definitely glad we're on the horizon for the NFL coming back.
May I toss out a final thought?
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
All right. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Oh, you go ahead. I'm going to hide this so we have the screen back as this draft is completed.
Yep. I will hide this screen too. So, yep. There we go. Thank you, Sleeper.
Yeah. Sleeper is so much easier. Just so much easier, especially for this, like doing it on the same screen.
Even trying to figure out how to use it from a PC as opposed to a phone is still a little bit easier than,
Well, last year I had to use my phone to film a corner of the screen so we could get the draft picks that come up. This one I can show the entire draft board, and I'm using the same computer. So I'm very happy to be moving to Sleeper for that reason, but also the communication and everything else. It's not an ad for Sleeper. Joel, final thought. Go ahead.
This week was interesting, to say the least. You had the Gruden email link, and Gruden is going after the NFL and wants to burn their house down, even though some feel as if Goodell should be punished. Let us not forget that his main job, protect and look out for the owners, even if one of them happens to be at the time, who is now no longer, Dan Snyder. So that's why I tend to ultimately think that nothing, unfortunately, will happen to Goodell. He was merely doing his job. His displeasure with Snyder was expressed by fining him $60 million for withholding funds from the NFL in course of the sexual harassment of Mary Jo White on his way out after Dan Snyder made $6 million on the snail. Goodell's like, yeah, cough up 60 mil, sir. So, yeah, I doubt John Gruden will see any money from the sale, at least from the NFL, given Gruden and Goodell's hate for each other. I think personally, Gruden is due some kind of financial restitution. What he said was absolutely inappropriate beyond anything anybody could say, to say the least, but his privacy was compromised, and everyone should be entitled to privacy, and that's my final thought.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about this in the main pod, the off-season catch-up pod, but it's really, really tough to feel bad for John Gruden. I mean, the privacy stuff, yeah, but he did say the things he said. But Roger Goodell's pretty much immune from all criticism. So for me, my final thought is going to be simply this. If you are just now getting back into fantasy, you're going to be behind the curve for the people that have played Dynasty and done some mock drafts, but you still have your time. Understand that this is where a lot of leagues are just getting back into it. So if you start your prep now and I mean, today, you're probably still going to be ahead a lot of your league mates, but you will be behind some people like me who are in dynasty leagues and rookie drafts and best balls and have already done probably 15, 20 mocks before this, listen to podcasts and try and get as much information. But now is the time, if you haven't started your prep, to get in, do some drafts, do some things in those mock drafts that you would not normally do. I think what I want to try and do at some point is something that the fantasy footballers did, which is a mayhem draft. That being said, what that is basically someone's going to moderate. Like Joel and Zach will draft, and I would moderate. And I will say, no, you're not going to make that pick here because I'm going to do this. And you have to adjust on the fly what your strategy is. They do it. It's a lot of entertainment, but there's a lot of value to saying, okay, well, instead of doing running back, wide receiver like I like to do, or Joel said, I can't go running back at the turn. I could force him to do it. And then what does he do after that? So do things in these drafts that makes you think differently, because you never know what's going to happen in a fantasy draft. I know we saw Justin Jefferson go number 1, Christian McCaffrey fall to 4, and a lot of receivers went in the first round. There are going to be leagues that's still running back off the board early, and you might be able to go and get Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and be pretty loaded at wide receiver. So do these mocks, change the settings on those mocks. So especially if you want sleeper, they do a good job of saying, okay, well, if you're doing full PPR, it is different than standard. It is different than super flex and 2 quarterback. Do them, get your practice in, be ready, because frankly, I had one league where I missed the playoffs, and I consider last season a failure because of that. And there's a lot of people out there that just they don't get involved quick enough, and they kind of start off behind the 8 ball. So don't let that happen to you. I think we'll do a mayhem draft at some point here soon, just so we can get practice and kind of think in different ways. But this is the time to get back involved, get back into it, and really buckle down and get prepared for a season if you have any hopes of winning, especially the 16-teamer. That is not easy to win. Even if you're very lucky, even if you draft perfect, make the right moves, it only takes one injury to ruin you. So prepare.
When you said now, that made me think of the Spaceballs quote. When will then be now? Soon.
Yes. So we will be back doing this a little more routinely. I have thrown the mayhem idea out to Zach. He said he's on board, so we should be able to do that. Get him on. He can talk with us.
I like that. I forget which episode it was of the Fantasy Footballers that all of a sudden, that was the one they had the producers in drafting with them. And then all of a sudden, when they drafted Michael Pittman, one of them had this graphic pop up that was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. They do a great job. I hope one day to be on their level. But if you don't follow them or listen to them, they have a lot of good information. There's a lot of good fantasy football podcasts out there, but they're the ones that win all the awards. So if there's one you're going to pick that's not ours, which you should pick ours. But if you're not, that's a good one. And again, they do things like the Mayhem Draft that does make you think in different ways. And that's a good thing as well. Again, not an ad for them, but until we catch up, I guess that's a good podcast to listen to as well.
We're sort of going like.
So with that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up here for tonight. We will be back more again. I know we've got 2 draft lotteries to do. We've got our draft week plans. We've got to get finalized, so we're going to do a lot there. Divisional breakdowns, off-season. We've kind of covered some of that today. We'll get more into that. We'll do our picks for the season. We'll get everything on the board behind me reset. That's going to be our picks from last year that I won in the Super Bowl last year. So it was a very close competition between Joel and I. He's still up 2-1. So still got to win another season to tie it up. And then, we'll be – training camp's happening in the next few days, guys. I mean, it's here. And I think – what's the Hall of Fame game? Like August 6th? Something like that. It's only a couple weeks away.
The game that is fairly irrelevant that everyone. Is that today?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Hall of Fame is August 3rd, so it is 2 weeks from yesterday. We're less than 2 weeks from on the field NFL football. So, anyways, with that, I'm flying Ryan Gilchrist along with, as always,
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verlin.
And with that, we